Hi there, everyone. This is Mark Maloney, host of the Mark Mo Show podcast, available on YouTube and all podcast platforms with new episodes every Saturday. Special thanks goes out to the producer, Greg Kovac, and Aiden Maloney, and thanks to each and every listener. I hope you enjoy, and please like, share, and subscribe. Our newest segment on the Mark Mo Show is Fireside Chats, where I have a casual chat with interesting and informative community members. This week on Fireside Chats is Christy Cleveland. She's a registered nurse from St. Mary's and with Valpo YMCA, and also joining us from the YMCA, Raphaella Petting. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Great.
Hello. Good.
That is good. That's great. I'm very excited to have you guys in here. We've had YMCA on, I believe, 3 times now, so this is pretty exciting stuff. There's always things going on, and being that we have this outreach to the community, it's kind of the perfect vehicle. So I love having you guys in, and we're just going to get started. Christy, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started in healthcare?
I would say I was probably like 15 or 16. I've always wanted to be able to help take care of people. I was the one that if there was an animal that was sick, I'm going to take care of that. And I kind of switched. I think I like to talk to people. There's a little more response coming back than the animals, although I've always had animals in our family, and I enjoy that. So then you get the best of both worlds.
Most definitely. So you are based out of St. Mary. Now, this is the St. Mary's in Hobart. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been there?
You know what? I've been with them right about 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was with Franciscan, one of our competitors, I guess I'll say, but
sure.
Great memories. I worked with them for 30 years, so now we're aging myself. Downtown Hammond. So I felt like I kind of grew up there. Cool place to work. Kind of sad that they had to close their doors. It's kind of I think they'd been there for more than 100 years, so that was kind of sad. But this has been a really good switch. It was community healthcare system. Now we are Powers Health, so
okay.
Look for that out there. But it's been a great switch. The physicians are so responsive when I ask for help doing a program, doing presentations. They're ready to get out there and meet the public and, help in any ways they can. It's been a really good move. A lot of cool people. I'm always meeting new people. At the Y especially now.
Yeah.
That we have a medical partnership with the Y, so that's kind of cool. I have an office there, so I kind of have an open door policy. People come in with every kind of health question. It might be, my foot hurts. Can you look at my foot? Take off your shoe, your sock. Ooh, okay. Maybe we could go in and see Brian in our physical therapy.
Right.
Brian. And he's always welcoming and gives good suggestions. He might even offer exercises for them to do that might help them. And if that doesn't work, he said, we can talk to your doctor and maybe talk about getting an order, for some physical therapy exercises and work with them. So it's always a good fit. We have personal training in the Y, so there's that option. If it's something about exercise, if it's cardiac exercise, I usually even walk people around the areas where they can do different kinds of exercise. I talk about safe exercise with using age predicted. If they don't have heart disease, we go with age predicted. Otherwise, they probably have something with their physician. If they've had a stress test, then it's calculated special based on that. Mm-hmm. So it's more individualized. We do a lot of blood pressure screening at the Y. We actually have a Higgy machine, which is right outside my office. So when I'm not there, it's kind of nice because people are still able to get their blood pressure checked. I always try to tell people don't do it more than once a day because they're going to drive themselves crazy because there's so many things that can affect our blood pressure. But then we also do AFib screening. And that's a way to even catch some kinds of serious arrhythmias. It can put you at risk for having a stroke or a heart attack. Sleep apnea, surprisingly, is one of those things that puts you at a higher risk of going into AFib. Generally, it's more as we're older, probably like 60, 65, when you're going to be at a higher risk for AFib. But it's an irregular heart rhythm. And so teaching people, even knowing what your norm is, if something changes and you feel your pulse, it's really, really fast, I can't count it, that's a bad sign that we need to get some help. If it's irregular, and that's what puts us at risk for throwing a blood clot. So if we throw a blood clot, that's where it depends on where it's going to travel. If it goes to your brain or if it goes to the heart, it depends on if it's going to be a stroke or a heart attack. So the sooner that we can get that documented and get to a cardiologist, that we can convert them. So there's different options that they can do as far as converting them, whether it's medication or if we have to do some kind of a special procedure that we would need to do in the hospital. And we've got some great cardiologists that are always able to take on new patients. So I can even text some of the physicians, which is kind of cool. Say, hey, we've got this going on. This person really needs to be seen pretty fast. This is what their blood pressure is, and that we did the Cardia Mobile, which is the little device that you see on the TV that talks about, do you know what your heart rhythm is? And I think they're less than $100. And you just put your 2 fingers on there and it gives you a regular cardiac rhythm that will go either on your iPad or on your phone. You could send it to your physician, which I'm sure the physicians probably don't want to get everybody's EKG that they're taking all day long. But if you were having some problems, it's nice to be able to share that directly to the physician. And I've actually shared that from my office for people in the Y. And that brings up one of the AFib screenings that we had done. I want to say it was last year. One of the members had been there. And I always do a lot of education with each person when I'm doing the AFib screening so that they understand what their pulse feels like, what it's doing, that it's regular. So that they recognize that something has changed, that's when we need to notify somebody or get help. And this one person said that, he went through the whole thing and he's a regular person at the Y. He exercises all the time. He plays different games out in the gym. And he was there, and I believe it was on a weekend, and he noticed that his heart rate was really fast and it was irregular, and he got really nervous. And so he had actually, after that AFib screening, gone and bought his own device. So he went home and checked it, and it said, I think you're in AFib. So he went ahead and went to the hospital, and actually he was in AFib, and they cardioverted him, and he's been in normal sinus rhythm on medication, and he feels like he's had his life saved. That, if he wouldn't have known about that, he didn't know what was going to happen.
Sure. Because
your heart rate can go 130s, 140, very irregular, and of course, depending on if you have a stroke with it or a heart attack, we don't know how we can, the outcomes with that. So that was kind of cool. We have a lot of people that come through different reasons. We kind of have our own emergency setup at the Y, which is kind of neat. When I started there, I don't know if I should tell you what it's called, because everybody in the building knows.
We can use acronyms.
George Williams. So we know that everybody goes immediately to where it's at. And we have some different points in the building where they have like an alarm system, so it's really cool. And it just does such a good job of getting help to that person as quickly as possible, because everybody runs. And whatever's needed, we have AEDs in the building, which is so critical, because if somebody does need to have their heart shocked to get out of some very serious arrhythmia, it's so much quicker than waiting for the ambulance to get there. Because if we take time to assess a person and find out what's going on, and then we have to wait for an AED to get there, that time is very valuable. Being that this is Heart Month, we talk about time is so valuable, saving that heart muscle. So it's real critical for people just even to learn about risk factors of heart disease. If you know what your risk factors are, then you know, okay, from there, that's those lifestyle changes that I want to start working on so that I can be healthy as I'm aging. So we have a lot of different ages, population in the Y, and so we try to give, education geared towards all those different ages. But of course, the senior people are the ones that are going to have more health issues, of course, than the young ones. So giving that information for them to make those lifestyle changes is really beneficial. I do a lot of lifestyle coaching. We do metabolic testing there also, which is cool for people if they're trying to lose weight, if they're wondering even, I'm just not sure about how many calories I should keep it at. I'm trying to maintain where I'm at. I just want to be healthy. So it's a way that they can tell exactly at rest, how many calories am I burning? So it's a respiratory test. So you put your mouth on a mouthpiece, and then your nose is clamped off, and you're sitting kind of in a reclined position. You want to do it before any exercise that day, before any kind of probably a heavy meal, 4 to 5 hours before you would eat. And then, of course, no caffeine before, because that's going to speed things up. So usually I just tell people that easiest would be first thing in the morning. So we do that, and then that can give you a suggested range to keep your calories in. If you want to lose weight, keep it in this range. If you want to maintain, if you're being supervised medically, they'll let you go a little bit lower, but I always worry about slowing somebody's metabolism down if you don't take in enough calories. And that's probably one of the mistakes a lot of people make when they're trying to lose weight, that they don't take in enough calories. And then I just talked to them a little bit about macros. 3 things, trying to think of nutrition in general. If you break it up to protein, healthy fats, and your carbohydrates. And the carbohydrates, I always say we got to have complex carbohydrates. The more fiber, the longer that it'll burn for you, so it's a better fuel. So you try to put those 3 things together and then keep it under certain number of calories, and then if you add in the right exercise. So it's trying to get all those pieces put together to make a healthy lifestyle for someone. So I enjoyed going over all of that and helping people try and make those changes. Along with the risk factors of heart disease specific to if people, knowing that it's, again, I'm going to go back to Heart Month, knowing the signs and symptoms of a heart attack is really important. If you've got chest pressure, and I had somebody in my office this morning that said, it was just kind of a feeling I've never had before. It's just kind of heavy. And I've heard people describe it that it was like crushing on their chest. Some people have been very vague, and it was, my jaw was just hurting, and I just wasn't sure. Did I need to go to the dentist? I've had patients that they pulled a tooth because I thought, wow, that tooth must have been pretty loose. If
wow,
they pulled
for sure.
Now, this was downtown Hammond on state line, so we had a variety of different patients that came in, but I thought, wow, I don't know that I'd be going that far. But thinking of those classic symptoms, chest pressure, chest pain, tightness, and to be able to describe it to your physician can help also. It might be just, your left arm pain. It could be in the center of your back. You might just feel like, I'm just not feeling so good. I'm kind of sick to my stomach. Maybe if I go to the bathroom, maybe I'll feel better. And sometimes it's, you go in the bathroom and they might be having those symptoms and they might have a bowel movement. Thinking about that, the nausea, the vomiting, those are all symptoms that are really classic that, you should have investigated. And remember, when we know that if it's cardiac related, if it's any of those symptoms, you're better to get it checked out than to not do anything, because time is so valuable. If we can do a procedure at the hospital, maybe just do an angiogram and see if those coronary arteries, what they're looking like, we could save that heart muscle and open it up where there is not going to be any permanent damage. If somebody waits a day or two and they come in, they already have the damage is already done.
Yeah.
So just for people to learn about those signs and symptoms and what to do, you call 911. Don't drive yourself. What if you can't stay alert while you're driving and you run into a telephone pole? You're going to hurt yourself. What if you run into somebody else? The ambulance can come, and those people are healthcare professionals. They know they're going to get an IV started. They're going to give you medication to take care of that pain. They're going to give you oxygen because you're going to be short of breath. So they're going to be able to take care of all those symptoms that much quicker and relay to the hospital, hey, we're bringing somebody in that it looks like, and they'll send an EKG. And so all about time saving and saving that heart muscle. So that was something that we did. In addition, that we just opened up a new emergency room out on it's off of 49 and Burlington Beach Road, or 500. We've got a clinic out there, and we had an immediate care, and we actually enlarged it and changed it into an emergency room, so people have more options of getting emergency care immediately right away. We also have an immediate care still that's on 30, and we enlarged the size of that so that we could take on the extra people that might be coming there. So it's good to know, when should I go to the emergency room? When should I go to the immediate care? Mm-hmm. It usually costs a little bit more going to the emergency room, but if it's respiratory, if it's cardiac, we need to go to the emergency room. I'd recently had a fall and I hit my head, so I thought, oh boy, I know I need to go get a CT, so I need to go to the emergency room. So that kind of cinched that. I was like, well, I don't like being the patient. I'd much rather be the nurse. But I've got a great handout if anybody is ever wanting one of those. And I always tell people, put it on your refrigerator. It really takes the guesswork out of, when should I go to the emergency room? When should I go to the immediate care? And be able to be seen quickly, and always keep the cost down. I'm always trying to help people think about, okay, cost-wise, if it can be covered at the immediate care and you can get in and out, that's the way to go. Our emergency room has an ambulance there. I know we don't have a hospital right there, but we have a huge clinic, and we have all the capabilities of testing that we already have at the hospital, so it's pretty cool. We've got MRI, CT, labs, ultrasound, oh my goodness, everything that we have at the hospital. So if they determine that you need to be hospitalized, they will take you by ambulance that is there on site directly to the hospital and have you admitted, and you'd be direct admitted. So all about saving time again, because of we're here in Valparaiso and we want to be able to be taken care of as quickly as possible. So I can tell you about some other situations that have come up at the Y. It's kind of cool. The teamwork that we have there. We had a situation, this one was another one, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. Someone was in the pool, and our lifeguard recognized, and I was so impressed with her. I told her, man, you did awesome. She recognized that this person was swimming in the pool, and you think about it, she was in the deep end, just doing laps back and forth, and then she had one of those kickboards, and she was swimming back and forth, and then all of a sudden she realized that she was struggling, and so she ran over to the side and tried to pull her out, and had one of the other guys came, and the two of them pulled her out and had her right there on the edge of the pool, and they called George Williams, and immediately we have help within a minute. And when I got there, usually, you want to try to assess that person. I realized she already had garbled speech, the classic signs that go with stroke, and that acronym is FAST. If anybody's doesn't know that one. So you think in your mind, okay, if my family member was doing something strange, and think through, are those points hit on? And so she had the facial drooping, she had the garbled speech. I tried to have her raise both her hands. The one wouldn't go up at all, so you raise those arms. And then time is so valuable. Again, we're talking about the brain. And we had already called 911, so I was able to tell them on the phone directly the symptoms that she was having. What her blood pressure was very elevated, and so they were able to send out the right ambulance that has the paramedics, that has all of the extra equipment, and then transport them as quickly as possible to the hospital. So we have a stroke certification, I think, and I don't remember the exact terminology, but Community Hospital in Munster is where they actually had to eventually transport her to for this area. So they're a stroke center. As with cardiac, we always think about, okay, I want to go somewhere where I know that time is measured, and so we're a certified chest pain center. That's with St. Mary. So that's important because we know they call it door to balloon time is within so many minutes. And again, it's talking about saving the heart muscle. So it's very critical that you want to be able to go where you know that they're going to be able to act, immediately. Sure. I had a lady today, it was kind of interesting. I get a phone call, and I'm telling you, you get all kinds. And this lady sounded, elderly. Later on in the conversation, she told me, I'm 91. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. She goes, I just wanted to call and ask your opinion because I saw your name in this book. And we have a Take Care book that goes out, I think, quarterly. And it has all of our different health screenings and classes that we offer through the different hospital programs so that anybody is welcome to sign up for. And she said that, she goes, I've got swelling in my feet and my ankles, and I don't know what kind of a doctor I should go to. What do you think? And I went, well, do you have a doctor? She said, well, I'm in the process of changing. And then later on in the conversation, I found out, okay, you have a cardiologist because, when you don't know the person's history, you want to be able to help them quickly direct them. But she had a cardiologist, so she's going to check with her cardiologist so that they could maybe do some labs and, see if maybe her heart function has changed. And that's why all of a sudden it could be congestive heart failure, which is a symptom where you have fluid that, can collect in your lower legs and your feet. And, we talk about anybody that has congestive heart failure, we always want to help them manage it the best. If somebody is 90 years old, they've made it this far, I am not going to tell them they have to change their whole life. I'm going to tell you, honey, you've been doing great. One thing that you could do to help yourself so you can breathe better, because it can also affect our breathing, is low sodium. And we really talk about that a lot in our classes with managing blood pressure. Low sodium, they recommend no more than 1,500 milligrams for the whole day. So if you're familiar with reading labels at all, you'll find that how quickly it can add up. And one that's a typical one is the soups that are, there's 2 servings in a can of soup. It's not condensed, so you don't have to add any fluid. So it might be between 800 and 900 milligrams of sodium per serving. You have to double that because I always tell people, I know you're not going to put half of that in the refrigerator. I think you're going to eat it all. So you're already over your limit for the day. And then that's where that extra salt is going to have a problem with you retaining the extra fluids. Your heart has to work harder. So then, of course, that raises your blood pressure. So helping people manage their blood pressure with diet, and then also thinking about exercise, stress management is part of one of those. And again, those are all risk factors of heart disease. So helping people look at those risk factors, I always think, man, more people should think about those. And I meet with people all the time and talk about those. So anybody is always welcome to meet with me. That's kind of one of my favorite things to go over with somebody. I was a cardiac rehab nurse for, I'll just say 20 plus years. So going over risk factors, that was one of the things that everybody gets before they go home. If they've had a heart attack, if you've had bypass surgery, if you've had congestive heart failure, you're going to get risk factors of heart disease because you need to change your lifestyle and let's move you in a healthy direction. So that's one thing. You guys can meet with me anytime.
What a tremendous asset you are to Valpo YMCA. What are your hours there?
You know what? It kind of varies because I do the metabolic testing. I like to, be available to go in early if someone needs that early time, if they can get it in before work. On average, because there's more people coming in the evening, I probably come in around between 8 and 9, but I keep a calendar on outside my door. Unfortunately, I have to go to meetings sometimes and they might be off site, so I try to communicate with the staff there, with what changes. And on my business card, it has my cell number, so everybody has Christy's number. It's kind of interesting. I take calls on the weekend. My husband will say, "Are you going to take that?" Yes. Somebody needs me. Whatever, it doesn't matter to me. There's some that call pretty regular, and I've gotten to know their names, of course, and then somebody else might call and just say, "Hey, I've got a quick question, could you help me with," or something. I've had people that I help them call their physician immediately because it was something much more urgent, or I might tell them, where the immediate care is and remind them about that. And of course, our new emergency room, depending on what the symptoms are. So, I'm usually pretty available, but 8 to 4:30-ish, but I stay later if somebody can't come. If they're coming only, say I work Monday through Friday, I can only get there at 5 o'clock, then I'll be there at 5 o'clock until, whenever they need me. So I try to be pretty flexible. I don't have young children, so it works out pretty well.
Oh, that's great. Now, when you were talking a little bit about, obviously, heart health and diet and exercise and things of that nature, does your, I was going to say advice, but counseling is probably a better term for it. So does your counseling really depend on age and weight and I guess maybe their goals and things that they're doing there? From the standpoint of, I have a daughter. She's an athletic trainer and a life coach out in Seattle. Oh, cool. So when I was out there, I got the full, she's like, this is how you do it and this and that. So one thing that they focus on a lot is muscle building and toning and things like that, along with stretching too, which I don't think people do enough in terms of stretching. But that the diet is an important component and cardio is an important component. So does it really depend on who visits you on a given day as to like what their goals are and what they're trying to do? Oh
my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. My little risk factor sheet that I've used for many, many years, top 3 are the ones that we can't do anything about. Age is the one.
Sure, yeah.
Of course, as we age, our risks are going to increase. Then you add in family history. Well, you can't do anything about that, mom and dad. grandma and grandpa. Otherwise, you think, okay, so if age is the one, then I've got to do any lifestyle changes of the ones that I do have so that we can make a difference. As far as muscle, I emphasize this with our elderly population. Staying strong, keeping your legs strong so that you're less risk for falls is so important. How else are we going to keep those muscles strong is putting in the right fuel. So we've got to get in enough protein. And there's actually, and I don't know if this was with the CDC, but they said that our aging population, they've done the different research that they don't metabolize that protein as well. So they want them to take in 1.2 grams per kilogram of weight. So then you've got to help them calculate their weight into kilograms, because I do that in the classes all the time. So it's making sure they're getting in enough protein. A lot of elderly people, I think maybe they've lost a spouse, they live by themselves. I don't feel like cooking. Oh, I'm just going to have a snack. What do they have? Some chips and, I had something. Maybe they'll have a yogurt, hopefully something with protein. But they end up not taking in enough calories or enough protein throughout the day, and they lose weight, they get weaker as they age. So being at the Y, I think it's a very positive environment. They have some great classes for the seniors that are so fun. I walk by some of those classes and I think, man, the music is so upbeat. I want to go in there. And of course, they invite me in,
Sure.
Well, sure, but, I have to work. There might be somebody else that needs me. So, but no, it's very positive for the people, whether you're a single person or just you and your husband now, and sometimes people get a little bit down just because, okay, I'm 90, how much longer am I going to be around? But there's so much good that you can do for other people, younger people, hearing about your stories, and, they've got the new gathering area out there, so I've seen a lot of the folks sitting out there and, being able to interact with others, and the younger people are coming. It's just a really good, positive environment. I would say regular adults, and before we become seniors, we need to make sure that we're getting in enough protein. And, the recommended, I think, from the American Dietetic Association is 0.8 grams per kilogram. So, there is a little bit of a difference in keeping our muscles strong. So getting a balance with a little bit of cardio, a little bit of weight training, they have everything there at the Y. And,
Sure.
People that can help them get set up, it's kind of nice that they can learn basic equipment and keep it simple. Because I've taken them around to, even if you could just use a recumbent bike. They can sit in the seat, they've got the back support, so that they're not going to be unsteady. If they're steady enough and they can do the treadmill, that's great. There's other equipment, so, there's something there for everybody.
Sure.
It's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
When you do your seminars or your presentations, things like that, do you ever find that you have even a younger audience? So maybe, kids, teens, things like that, to be able to help them form positive habits when they're younger, so they can kind of continue that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And talking about even, I've had mothers say, my kids are picky eaters. What do you think about that? I've always tried to, okay, we're not going to make separate meals for everybody. So, hey, if the kids can be part of that cooking thing, they're actually making the food, they'll be more ready to try the different things. Have them make a plan with, okay, what do we want to make for this week for groceries? We're going to make a grocery list. What are you feeling like eating this week? Let's make a plan. So our afternoon classes, we were trying to gear it more towards families. We probably didn't have as good a turnout as we hoped, because I think the kids are so involved in so many activities that I think it was hard to pin them down for it. But having the kids involved in the food and food preparation and even meal planning. And I told parents, let each of your kids, there was one family that came up that had 3 kids, let them each plan the whole meal, and think about those food groups. And so, my plate, using that as a basis and thinking about, and then we even talked about the macros, keeping that simple. I think everybody, if we can think about those macros, those 3 things, it's pretty simple then, that if I could have that in each of my meals. If I'm pre-diabetic, if I'm diabetic, if you eat just simple carbs, of course your blood sugar is going to spike. If you eat it with different kind of food combinations and add a healthy fat with it, you aren't going to see the big spike. So thinking about having a good balanced meal is going to make a big difference where you're not going to have those big spikes. And then we'll keep our blood sugar on an even keel. We're going to feel better. Everything's going to work better inside too,
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. When I was on the website and looking at your page a little bit, there was an acronym, and I don't believe we covered it yet. DASH, DASH?
Yes, that one is dietary. I always have to, and this is why they call it DASH, because who would call a dietary approach to stop hypertension? So it's like, really? And it's actually been around for a long time, but they've made some modifications. So it's 1,500 milligrams or less, and they want you to increase how many fruits and vegetables that you add into that diet. The top diet that's been chosen overall for everyone for long-term health, for controlling blood pressure, for even helping with controlling your blood sugars, so diabetes, overall health, cholesterol, is the Mediterranean diet. So they kind of combine the Mediterranean diet and then they look at the DASH diet. And those were kind of the top 2. And so with the Mediterranean diet, they want you to eat some kind of a fatty fish at least 2 days a week. And then increasing fruits and vegetables. Cooking with olive oil, avocado oil, adding in nuts and seeds, that kind of thing. So you're getting those. And then that diet is really easy to look at and think about the macros. So putting those pieces together is kind of fun and making it work. And then, it was probably about a year ago, I had read a study that was put out by Rush. And they were looking at, for the elderly population, what would be the healthiest diet. And they came up with the name Mind Diet. So we're trying to keep the brain healthy, and as we're aging, that we're not as forgetful and, long term. So it's really kind of in a nutshell, it's the combination of the DASH diet with the Mediterranean diet. So I've done some talks on that, and it was very interesting. And people seemed to be very motivated. They wanted to learn details about it. So what do I do? How do I eat that way? And I think it made people be a little more aware of meal times, meal prep. If you do planning, you'll do so much better. Meal prepping, you could do it on the weekend, and you could prep 3-4 meals, and then you've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday covered. Well, Friday night can be pizza night, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And there's all kinds of healthy ways to have pizza, and especially if you have young kids, oh my gosh, they get to make their own. You could have all your toppings set out. They get to make whatever kind they want, have the different crusts, or maybe they're old enough that they could even make their crusts themselves. We try to get away from using the packaged goods, packaged foods, because of course they're going to be a lot more preservatives. And of course they're coming out with more things like red dye. Now they've finally realized, it is bad. So I'm kind of glad that was, but I think it's not going to be technically taken out of the foods until next year or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like, wow. but at least we are aware so that we can make those changes. But again, it's all about reading your labels,
Sure.
thinking about, what's in the food, what ingredients. If you've got a list of ingredients that's this long, it's probably
not great.
pretty packaged up and probably not going to be the best choice. Teaching kids how to do food prep and getting them a cookbook with simple ingredients so that they learn. I think about like kids that go away to college. I'd love to have classes that's geared towards, okay, I'm getting ready to go to college. Mom and Dad aren't going to be there. I got to go to the cafeteria and I got to get food, but I don't want to have that 15-pound gain that, they always talk about.
Or 20.
Or, yeah.
The freshman 15 or 20.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's right.
I think that's what happened to a lot of us during COVID, too. You sit at home and, we didn't go anywhere, right?
That's right.
So, of course, if you're sitting in your dorm room, and then that's when they first learn about going to parties and so there's a lot of things that change from what it was at home. So thinking about making the best choice of what's available and maybe having some healthy snacks in your dorm room versus all the, I wouldn't say garbage, but
chips and cheesy poofs and all that stuff.
The easy stuff that you can, snacky foods. That,
right.
Having a little refrigerator with some veggies and, navigating that cafeteria to what healthy options would they have? I'm sure they have some healthy options there. I'm sure they are.
Oh, I'm sure. So to kind of close it out, if I'm at the Y and I want to see you, is it through appointment or can I stop down to your office? How does it work?
You know what? I have people that drop by all the time. If I have time available, I don't have any meetings scheduled or there isn't somebody waiting for something, they drop in all the time. If somebody's coming from home and they want to make sure that I'm available, then give me a call. You can send me an email. You could text me. And we can set up a time of whatever's convenient for that person.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's really great. Raphaella, as I alluded to at the beginning of our interview here, we always like to finish up with you to tell us all the new and interesting things going on at the Valpo Y.
Oh, there's so many. But I know we mentioned that February is, Heart Health Awareness Month. But even though we draw attention to it in February, you have to be heart smart year round. So nurses are an integral part of our community and the YMCA. So we are so lucky to have Nurse Christy here. We love her so much. She's definitely, it's one of the amazing benefits that we have as a member of the YMCA. As we were saying, if you have any questions, she's an open door policy. If it's something you've been afraid to ask your doctor or you didn't want to make an appointment or, just anything. She's very easy to talk to. And like I said, an incredible resource for the Y and for our community. So we really appreciate her. And as part of showing our appreciation for our nurses, some of the hardest working people that we have out here. The YMCA is offering a 10% discount off memberships for all nurses who live and work inside the Valparaiso community.
Oh, that's fantastic. Just
call our front desk or come down and see us. And even if you want a tour of our new facility, we're happy to give you a tour.
Yeah. Well, you guys were closed, making some updates and things like that. I believe you have some sort of new cafe or something in there as well.
We do, and actually when you were talking about figuring out what to do in your dorm, that reminded me of the story that Gabe was telling me. So we have a Bright Love Cafe in our facility, and he was talking about how him and his roommate, that's how they came up. They were making their own coffee in the dorm. And everyone kept smelling it. Have you heard the story too?
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. So come by the YMCA, get a tour if you haven't been a member before, get a membership, preferably. We've got so much going on. And stop by and see Nurse Christy, get a coffee from Gabe. From Bright Love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's always great having you guys here. Nurse Christy, thank you so much for visiting us today. Some really fantastic information. And if you're at the Y and maybe you need some counseling, especially as it pertains to maybe heart health, health and diet and things of that nature, visit Nurse Christy. Her door is open and she's there.
Absolutely.
And Raphaella, thanks once again for joining us and mentioning all the wonderful things going on at the Valpo Y.
Thank you. And thank you, Nurse Christy, for joining us.
Definitely.
I always like to meet new people.
Well, this has been the Mark Moe Show. We are a podcast. You can hear us on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube. And you'll hear this show several times during the next week here on the WVLP airwaves here in Valparaiso, 103.1 FM. So thank you so much for joining us today and have a great day.